Glenmark is up by about 49 rupees. Glenn Saldana joins us now, and the fact that his con call with analyst got extended, that means that analyst had a lot of curious questions. So Glenn, good to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Lot of curious question from analysts, and now you'll have to face a lot of curious question from television anchors. So straight off, without getting into the base aspect, let's talk about the ZTI impact. What have you gained because of that launch?
Well, clearly, Zetia has generic Zetia. We launched it on the 12th of December. It has clearly positively impacted our US business. I think overall we had close to about $190 million of revenues coming out of the US. So very strong quarter for the company, and we anticipate. We have the 6 months exclusivity on generic Zetia. So clearly, we think. The next few quarters also will look pretty strong.
They will look strong, Glenn. Would they manage to beat Q3's performance? That's the Zetia contribution I'm talking about.
Well, I think Q4 also should be a strong quarter as far as overall performance goes, and probably will be ahead of Q3 on an overall basis. Including Zetia. So I think overall Q4 should look stronger than Q3.
So Glenn, good morning. Neeraj here. I'm just trying to put the pieces together. I heard you mention that you launched it on December 12th. And if Zetia contributed in a smart way with just half a month of sales, I'm now trying to think what a full quarter of sales, because you have a 6-month period, what a full quarter of sales could do to your overall revenues for Q4.
Well, I think we've guided to $200 to $250 million on in terms of our contribution, what we would gain out of generic Zetia. So we're well on course to achieving that. That's the only guidance I can provide. Obviously, Q3, the December quarter, there is some initial pipeline inventory that goes into the channel, right, which is higher than your normal monthly sales. So from that perspective, I wouldn't anticipate Q4 being way ahead of Q3 in terms of overall numbers.
Okay, no, but can you give me some numbers here? I mean, what did Zetia do, specifically Zetia do? I know we are talking a lot about Zetia, we'll talk about other things too, but what did Zetia do in Q3 for you, and what will Zetia do in Q4 for you?
So look, we are not breaking down specific numbers, but generics. Zetia as a molecule is a $2.6 billion drug, right? And we have the sole 180-day exclusivity, which is shared with our partner Endo Par Pharmaceuticals. So I think we are the only generic currently on the market because of the 6 months exclusivity. We're not breaking down specifically Zetia sales, but I think the US business, the 190 odd million that we reported is a big component of that. A significant component would be Zetia in Q3, and in Q4 also we anticipate that component will be there.
Okay, so let's move away from Zetia now then, Glenn. Ex-Zetia, what's the growth of the base US business? Because the market feels that pricing pressure has been playing out certainly.
Absolutely. So again, as I said, we're not breaking out the base business from Zetia sales, but I think the general trend in the US, you are seeing significant pricing pressure in the US market. We are seeing pricing, almost a 10% decline on account of pricing pressure, and we think this trend will continue for some time in terms of generic pricing in the US.
Okay, so let's not take the clock back, let's take the clock forward. After 6 months, the Zetia launch, that windfall gain will be over. What happens to the US business then? Because if Zetia becomes a commodity, it would be an ordinary business stream or a business revenue for you.
Sure, you're absolutely right. So I think post 6 months exclusivity, there will be a flood of generics and it will commoditize. However, we still believe that in FY18, the US business will grow over FY17 at a overall level. So I think despite having the bulk of Zetia flowing into FY17 and part of it going into FY18, on a full year basis, FY18 we will see some growth coming out of the US, the overall US business.
Okay, let's talk about the two aspects which may be something that the market may be not worried about at all. I don't think the market is worried about, but may have a small concern on. One is the India and LATAM sales, which have been disappointing. Two is the plan for the balance sheet and the cleanup there. Would you throw some light on both of these?
Sure. So India sales, India, we continue to be among the fastest growing companies. In fact, if you see the last month IMS, we were the second fastest growing companies among the top companies. We also improved ranks, so we are among the top 15 companies in the country as far as India goes. However, I think the demonetization aspect had an impact on the overall growth of the India business. So we still grew India at about 6%, but there was an impact seen in November, December. We think India, growth numbers will come back. It may take some time, but we think India will continue to be a very strong business for the company going forward. As far as LATAM goes, we had, this quarter we had zero sales coming out of Venezuela. So there's no effect. Whereas, last year at this time, Venezuela was a significant contributor. If you strip out Venezuela, I think the core business is growing at about 15-20% in terms of our sales on a constant currency basis out of the other markets. So I think both these continue to be strong. In terms of the balance sheet and the leverage goes, we are very clear that at the end of Q4, right, our debt level, our net debt will be below what we saw in March 16. So there will be a significant delevering of the balance sheet, and purely on account of the cash flow that's coming out of Zetia.
Could be that number, because out of the 200-250 million which you will get from Zetia, there would be some marketing expenses. Not everything comes into your balance sheet. How much would you be like to delever? How much would you like to divert towards R&D?
I mean, I think other than the tax payment, the bulk of it, so if you net out tax, the rest clearly goes towards debt repayment. Of course, the 200-250 million part of it will go into FY18 and part of it will come into FY17. So FY17 year end, we are guiding a debt level below what we had a net debt level below what we had in March 16. And then the rest will go into FY18 in terms of cash flow. So 18, of course, should be below 17 also in terms of overall leverage.
Okay, Glenn, good speaking with you and congratulations once again. The stock markets is well rewarding your performance this quarter. The stock is, bright and sparkling in trade as we speak. A nice 5.6% uptick coming in on Glenmark.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.